Okay, so for this video, I think what I need to do is to put on my old-timers or old man's hat. I kind of need to recall what user experience was back in the day, and first looking at the elements of user experience by Jesse James Garrett. You know, one of the, I guess, starting points, and of course, user experience has been here for so long. It's been shaped up and had so many flavors to it, but ultimately, I remember those days when I picked up that book and it had very simple framework to user experience, which had 5 planes from, you know, very abstract to very specific, and it walked you through all the different bits you had to do basically to deliver a good user experience. And of course the times were different. There wasn't any metaverse, there wasn't any emerging tech, VR, things of that nature. Granted, you can apply that framework to anything, and you can apply the double diamond from the, you know, design council's perspective. But why I'm bringing this to you is that at that point, and of course I cannot say that I joined it at its infancy or I learned about it at its infancy. You've probably seen the case study as well from like a dozen of years I had where I'm laughing at myself of the decisions I made. It's always based on those methods. At that point, I never seen or never heard of other people or never even had an inkling of my own that I had to work on UX case studies. At that point, the only thing what was kind of bounced around or was recommended by mentors or by peer designers was always to work on projects, always to focus on projects. And there is a massive difference between the case study work and a project work. In my book, I kind of made a cardinal sin telling people to think about the end result and always use that as a motivation, that you are there doing the hard work, following the right principles to make UX case studies. I kind of glossed over about the projects and that you must focus on the projects first and foremost, because if you do so and you do it in the right measures, you're gonna get to the result and your UX case study is gonna glow. You might not feel like there's massive difference there, but there is a massive difference. A lot of people, especially let's say on design communities, design Twitter, Discord, kind of message me and say, oh, if it's not an app, what should I be designing? Or, oh, my UX case study looks like this, what should I improve on? And when I review it, I give some pointers and they say, okay, I'm gonna go now and make those changes happen. But it usually is way too late to make those changes because they could be fundamental, which had to be addressed in the project itself. If you, let's say, go out there, you want to redesign some sort of app or create a new app and you end up with it, you kind of start backwards because you already have a solution in mind, and when you look for a problem, is certainly not the way to do. All the different methods, all the principles, let's say the personas you create, the interviews you make, the surveys you run are all appearing fake to someone who's gonna see it afterwards. And that's because you kind of template your way to create the case study. You might even see a portfolio out there which looks a certain way, and so you think that that's how real life-like projects would run. In reality, it's not. There is no clear-cut way to user experience. There is only recommendations, guidelines, heuristics, methods which are proven to deliver the evidence so you can actually proceed from the challenge to the solution. Of course, using Pareto principle, there's always the 20% of ways, methods, activities which are going to produce you with 80% of results, so you can kind of default to that. That's why almost every case study or every project has a persona, interview, surveys, is because it's a bread and butter if you're there to redesign something digital. You can of course go in deeper into ethnography, the observations, the generative research, attitudinal and behavioral type of testing and research methods. You can do a lot of those things, but it has to be appropriate to the thing. And so going back to the point when someone asks me to review a case study and I see that, let's say, they didn't do enough research and then they try to fake it later on. They don't restart the project from scratch. They just go back to the case study, they update it and almost like gloss it over and make that case study like a project, but in reality the project looked nothing like it. And so long story short, what I want you to do and what I would recommend you is to focus on the project itself. Think about case study as an end result, which if you document your project steps right, you can kind of easily pull together. But it shouldn't be something you saw in a case study and say, oh, they mentioned personas, they mentioned interviews, mentioned surveys, maybe journey maps, experience maps, skinned the information architecture of just sitemaps or some sort of blocks of data. And then you just run with it and think that that's what I need to do for my solution to be sound. That's a wrong approach. It's clearly a wrong approach. That's why you have so many people who struggle to get into UX, because they take a case study and then they create, shadow case studies inspired by it, but they forget the in-between, that messy process, that projects of figuring out which method to use, why they're using that method, and if they would be even lucky to get that interview. I'm the notorious one who's asking, like, why did you do this way? How did you use that artifact or that delivery? Why did you even create personas to begin with? How did you inform those decisions going forward? And if they haven't, which is a lot of cases, I would be even bold saying it's 9 out of 10 cases that designers do this, they're not gonna get the job because they immediately appear like they faked it, looked for shortcuts, that they created case study based on someone else's case study, but forgot to do the actual UX work. Make sure to target that UX project first. And then the case study is just going to take care of itself, because you're going to have all the material in the world. You're going to have a story to tell. You're not going to need to fake anything. You're not going to need to gloss over anything. You're going to know exactly what you did and why you did it, because that's so important. That evidence, which is rightful in the right context, with the right backup, with the right material, like a scaffold to support it, is the most essential bit. Check out other videos, by the way. I'm always leaving him floating somewhere here. Also leave a comments down below, because I love to read comments, especially those who are constructive. And on that note, I'll see you next time.